Hello and welcome back to Coast FC, the Canadian soccer podcast focusing on all things CPL, Canadian Championship, and more. My name is Felipe and
I'm Mike Rice.
And we are back to discuss the thrilling climax that was the CPL playoffs final. We look into Cavalry finally taking home the North Star Cup in front of their own fans and the fallout from this match, and even a little bit of already 2025 news that we got treated to very shortly after. It doesn't stop. The CPL never stops, and so there's plenty to talk about. It's going to be a jam-packed episode. But before we dive into it, remember to follow us on all of our socials at Coast to Coast FC, as well as finding us on YouTube to see the visual side of the podcast. Mike, what a final, eh?
Amazing, absolutely incredible. And they didn't just win it in front of their fans; they won it in front of you. Like, mate, how was it? I was so jealous watching through the One Soccer app.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. I got to say, like, I've been to a few CPL stadiums in my time, but Spruce Meadows, I think, is the best one that I've been to so far. There's still a few that I'm holding out on, but it's such a unique, just like venue in general. Like even outside of Atco Field, Spruce Meadows in itself, like it has its own like a Christmas market there that they open seasonally beside it, and there's like different plazas and different buildings, and it's all for different kinds of events. It's not just for sports and things like that. So it's a wonderful just place to go, and it's the only thing is that it's impossible to get to. Luckily, my Airbnb was right near it, but it took almost 2 hours in transit. It was actually longer to get from the airport to my Airbnb, which is right by Spruce Meadows, than it was to fly from Vancouver to Calgary.
Oh god.
But no, it's a spectacular venue. And then the day of, it was amazing. I don't think I've ever seen so many people come to a game like this with the atmosphere. Everyone was buzzing. The pre-match sort of events that the CPL did was really cool. They had a little mini concert. They had like the classic activation things of like soccer at the like kicking the dartboard and other things like that. They had the North Star Cup with photo opportunities, bunch of food vendors and stuff like that. It was really a really amazing experience. I loved being able to just walk through it before the game, see all the people excited. And I almost got a little emotional because of the fact that, the CPL is only 6 years old. 6 years ago, this was just an idea. And to be able to see a whole city just get behind not just their team, but the event as a whole, the league as a whole, Canadian soccer, it was incredible to see. It was a sold out venue of 7,000 people, and just seeing them all there excited for the game, whether they were cheering for Cavalry or Forge or they're just to see a great game. It was amazing to see. And then the hospitality from the league and from Cavalry there for the journalists and everything was amazing. Really nice catering, and I will say the press box at Spruce Meadows, not ideal. It's very, very far away.
It does
like
look
to a corner. And so basically we spent no time in the press box when the game started. We all went outside, but also made it kind of an even more cool, immersed experience because you were there alongside the fans and alongside, journalists and, workers as well, employees of the league. Footy Prime was there, which was cool. You got to see them, got to chat to them a little bit. And then, just the faces that you see on One Soccer and behind the screen at the CPL, like Jordan Wilson, Gareth Wheeler, Christian Jack, obviously, Oliver Platt, like all of these guys that are helping, grow the game, to be able to see them there, talk with them, work alongside them was a really, really cool, surreal experience. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing. And like even the awards was another whole endeavor that maybe I'll save to talk about that when we get to the awards part, when we review about it. So it's not just me ranting for 10 minutes at the start of the episode. But it was an incredible experience overall, the final. And not one I'm going to forget anytime soon.
No, and we finally got to see Forge lose. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been 3 years,
Yeah,
2021, the last time we saw them lose, and for me, it was a bit of a weird experience as well because obviously I worked for Forge. Forge is
yeah,
a special place in my heart, but at the same time, as a journalist and as a fan of the league in general, and trying to be impartial about it, I was also happy and sort of cheering for Cavalry to go on and win it because of the story of it all. You know, the
yeah,
fact that it's the third time that they faced Forge in the finals. They lost it twice,
mm.
bridesmaid, never the bride. They finally get to play it once again in front of their home fans, but this time in a one-off, not in the two-legged final
Yeah,
that was in the first year in 2019. The whole story of Bobby versus Tommy kind of culminating into this moment. It was just, yeah, fantastic. And I think
mm.
because of everything going on to it and the game itself, I might be biased because I was there, but I think that's the best CPL final that we've seen as a whole. Obviously, last year's with the whole Olympicos last minute thing,
Yeah,
that I don't think will ever really be topped as a moment. But on a whole, with everything included, I think this is the best one we've seen so far.
yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. Like Cavalry came straight out at them. It was so good to see. Like, yeah, they just got it started from the beginning. There was no like feeling each other out and getting like an idea of like trying to suss out each other's styles of play. It was bang, let's go.
It was incredible, yeah, because there was a feeling. Obviously, I was at match day -1, and you got to see some of the teams train, and you could even sense we were a bit far away from the training, but you could sense just the amount of focus and
Mm,
concentration in the team. Like they were zeroed in. I'm talking about Cavalry here. They
yeah.
were they were so locked in that any
Mm,
little thing that happened wrong, it started a debate. It started like arguments because they wanted to get everything perfect
mm.
in their preparation. It was, yeah, it was palpable even from the press area. So I wasn't surprised that Calvary started as they did, especially because they were in front of their home fans and the history and everything. What did surprise me was just how poorly Forge started
Yeah,
because you expect them sixth time in the year that this is something that they are used to, the pressure that goes into playing a final, playing against Cavalry. Even a lot of the day ones are still in there, and
mm,
you would expect them to be able to manage a final better than Cavalry have because they've been there 6 straight times. But it didn't look that way in the first half at
no,
all. It felt like Forge came out strolling and then, pardon the pun, but got trampled by the cavalry
yeah,
in the opening 45 minutes. And it was stunning to
mm,
watch in both senses of the word because, yeah, you never expected that from Forge, and being able to be pitch side every time cavalry got on the ball and won the ball back, the crowd roared and egged them on. And
mm,
I think the occasion, the atmosphere got to Forge, and I'm sure they'll deny it and they'll say no because and fans might deny it and say no, it's because they're used to it and you expect them to be used to it again because it's sixth straight
mm,
time. But I truly feel like it just got to them because the crowd and the ambiance was like the 12th man for Cavalry, and they just
yeah,
pushed them forward and egged them forward from the first minute. And it paid huge dividends because we got 2 goals inside the first half an hour
yeah.
of the game.
And a lot of this, like, yeah, I'm going to jump ahead slightly from what we've sort of planned, but that what you're talking about, that style of like the way they go into those opening moments, like from what like Carl Becker's like pre-match press conference, we're like, well, we've got plenty at home. Like, so they just didn't have that. They didn't match the energy of Cavalry going into the game, and then obviously once it kicks off, they couldn't jump up to what they needed to do to be able to deal with them.
Yeah, I did find those kind of pre-match comments to be a little odd
Yeah,
from both Bobby and Kyle Becker. Kyle Becker, I
mm,
think, was trying his best to be that villain. And
yeah,
even when he was sort of confronted about it, being like, our force got to play the villain, he said something very funny where it was like, I don't know if you can be the villain if you win all the time. which is such a villain thing to say.
Yeah.
And but yeah, both Bobby and Becker kind of downplayed the not the importance, but I guess the magnitude of what winning would be, because they're like, we already got, 4 at home, so this would
Mm,
just be another one. Yeah, we're gonna take it seriously, but it still was weird for Bobby to be saying that, and Kyle Becker is saying, yeah, we got a few more trophies than they do, so I feel like we're the favorites. The pressure's all on them, and so if we lose, we'll be all right. Those kind of comments, I
mm,
understand the angle they're trying to play, but you know, given the result, it looks like they were sort of setting themselves up for
mm.
failure with like a twinge of that arrogance of like, oh, we don't have to, you know, get ready, we just stay ready. This is
Yeah.
another final, and it kind of bit them in the ass
Yeah.
in the end when the game happened, because the 45 minutes that opened up, they kind of got into it in the last maybe 5 or 10 minutes of the
Mm.
first half, where they
Yeah.
finally started to get a little bit of possession. But the
Jensen
first
finally tested Carducci, didn't he, quite late on in the half, and
Yeah,
that was their only real chance. But yeah, it took a long time.
it took a long time, because in that first half an hour, I swear to you, from where I was watching, I don't think I saw Forge able to string 3 or 4 passes together before Cavalry won it back. The
Yeah.
relentless pressing from Cavalry. I think
Mm.
Jurgen Klopp would be,
Yeah.
impressed, would be proud, because that was incredible from everyone from the front four, Jay Herdman, Ali Musi, Sergio Camargo, and then Tobias Warchowski,
So
especially.
good. Yeah.
They just hounded that back four, and not even just the back four, but the midfield as well. By their pressing, it allowed Shamit Shom to be able to kind of dig in and be able to, alongside Gutierrez, of course, to be able
Mm.
to dig in and really put pressure on Kyle Becker and on Noah Jensen. But they did the best thing that you can do when you know that the strength of a team is in their midfield, and that's not allow any service to them. And every time
Yeah.
that Forge tried to go short, they were forced to go long because of Cavalry's press. And when they tried to go long, Cavalry were so good at winning the ball back, either at the first or second time, and getting that possession back. Dan Klump was all over Nana and Palma at the beginning, and then Betty Betty Banga afterwards, and
Yeah.
even Tristan Borges when he went down. Like, he was just all over. Him and Montgomery were all over the attack, never letting them have a second on the ball to be able to turn when their backs to goal. It was a stunning feat, honestly,
Mm.
from the entire team to be able to press that hard. And that's why they had such a great opening half an hour.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, they show flashes at the beginning where they're making it so hard for Forge to get out, and when they're trying to Forge trying to link up with their sort of forward players, they were in straight away, and they're picking up those interceptions if it did go through. But that front four were just on another level. Obviously, Herdman is fitted in really well alongside them. It's really works so well. They've got a really good blend of styles of players on the ball, but the way that they can, once they get it, the creativity you've got across all 4 of them, but the work rate they put in as well. Just once they get that, they was Wojcicki nearly, I think it's the 10 minutes in, nearly gave him the start. Like Camargo, lovely skill and working the ball out, and it gets through to Wojcicki, who just started going at them again, like he did in the last game between them over in Tim Hortons. It's just like, just come at me, see if you can get the ball off me. Just come, like, you're not gonna. I'm too strong. I'm too quick. And Forge were terrified of him. Like, their defense was absolutely terrified of him again.
Oh yeah. It was like they genuinely, I think the Cavalry started saying like, Toby's on fire, your defense is terrified.
Yeah.
Very apt, very correct, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what was happening. Like, I think Dominic Samuel, and we'll talk about his performance in a bit, but I think he was brought in obviously because of injuries and stuff like that, but I also think he was brought in to kind of deal with Toby Warchowski
Mm,
because he's quick and strong. But it didn't look that way at all, because
no.
Tobias Warchowski, it wasn't even just about being quick or being strong. He was relentless.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if the ball took a weird touch, if the ball bounced out, if whatever chaos was happening. He would always be the first one to try to get it back. He never said die trying to recover a ball. And in the end, that's what allowed them to get that second goal, because many times, like after he had a shot and stuff like that, like the ball bounced, and other strikers you see when the ball bounces and goes away from them, they'll just be like, I missed. And they'll
Yeah.
have that kind of second to more in the chance or get frustrated. Tobias Warchowski never took his eye off the ball, even if it went behind him. He always was just relentlessly hunting down the ball, which is, as a striker is an odd feat to have. That's usually what you see from like a defensive midfielder
Yeah.
or a center back, because your job is to be ball winners. But Tobias Warchowski was supreme in that ability, and it's what allowed them to be so good. I mean, he was a fantastic addition for them. We were talking about how great he was when we were talking about him last, and I think it was last episode, we were talking about as a golden boot winner and everything. But it's just that work rate that he has that I think cemented him as, in the end, the final MVP, because it was everything. He did everything in that opening 45, attacking and defensively. It was amazing to watch. And I think Forge were thinking that they were prepared, but they weren't quite prepared for what Tobias Warchowski actually brought to the table.
Yeah, I mean, he from remembering it rightly, I think he assisted the second goal, didn't he? He got that across to Camargo. And the penalty finish was expertly dispatched. Like really put that away properly. I mean, they're talking about missing against missing the last time he took one against Forge, but that one wasn't going in. But Dom Samuel, we got to talk about that. Like, what on earth was he doing?
See, at first glance for me, because obviously I don't have the replay, right?
Yeah.
It didn't look all that bad to me. I thought it was actually a soft penalty at first glance, because I didn't quite see what was happening. Yeah, from the distance. And like I was actually at that time standing beside a couple of the players. So I was standing beside like players that were brought in for the award. So like Brian Wright, Callum Irving, Ben Fisk was there as well. Dario Zanata was there. So they were all standing there, and I was beside them, just happened to be. And when that came in, we sort of all started chatting, and the players even were like, yeah, it looked kind of soft. It wasn't like a clear call, whatever. And then even afterwards, Bobby made comments about it's like, I wish referees wouldn't decide these finals. I wish the players did. And it made it seem like it was a soft call. And then at the very end of the night, like in my mind, I was like, it was a soft penalty. It was a soft penalty. At the end of the night, I was watching it back with Alex Conke-Ruzic. And then I realized, wait a minute, Dominic Samuel speared Tobias Warchowski. It looks like something straight out of WWE.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit like WWE, sort of half that, half sumo wrestling. They were just trying to get him off the pitch. Like, right, you're out the circle. Like, I don't know what he was trying to do.
No, it was, I was looking at it back. I was like, that's the clearest penalty I've seen in a long time. That wasn't a play for the ball. That was, like you said, a play to get him out of the square.
Yeah, just
like
trying
that
to
was
throw him off the pitch. Just get
it
out of
looked
it and
like,
come back.
Exactly. It looked like he was trying to kick him out of the Royal Rumble. It was it's just, I just don't understand what was going through his mind at that point. Extremely silly penalty to give away. And I'll be honest, looking at it back, I don't understand how you can defend that.
No. I mean, all I can imagine is he's just gone, well, sometimes refs miss stuff in the CPL and we haven't got VAR. I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah. I don't think he got his angles right. I don't think he was checking his mirrors to see where the referee was, because both on the camera and I think in the referee's position, it was blatantly a penalty call. He took no time to review it. He's like, oh, that man just got speared. Penalty. Like, it
absolutely crazy decision.
Yeah.
Like, and again, I guess it just comes from the fact that they're just under so much pressure, and like you don't imagine in the first half a centre back to be knackered, but I could quite imagine the Forge centre backs were after dealing with the first half hour of that.
No, definitely. That's what it looked like. It looked like a frustration from Dominic
Yeah,
Samuel. Like he was brought in and he thought probably I'm going to dominate this guy. I'm not like going to let this guy breathe. And in the end,
yeah,
that's what Tobias was doing to him. So
yeah.
he's probably getting frustrated, and then it just kind of came out in that moment. We saw red because
Mm,
Tobias was all over him and speared him down to the ground.
yeah.
And there we go. I mean, that's a lesson for aspiring strikers. If you're an absolute nuisance, especially to the center backs,
Yeah,
you probably could win a couple of penalties because you're just gonna piss them right off, and
yeah.
they're gonna want to take that out on you. Just be ready to be speared or tackled or tombstoned, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Um, but it's something that's a good quality to have as a striker, and that's exactly what Chesky did. And yeah, like you mentioned, like stepped up, fantastic penalty. That's one of those penalties that you say, I'm gonna put this one away. Like
Yeah,
I'm not pulling my punches. I
yeah,
think Coilelat could have been standing right there, and he would have gone in with the ball. That's how much
yeah, maybe,
power
yeah.
Toby put into it. But it was well deserved. It was more
Mm,
than well deserved from Cavalry, and you felt as soon as that goal went in, two things were either had to happen. Forge had to respond
mm,
and get back into this game, or Cavalry were going to go and get a second.
yeah.
And very quickly, it was like, nope, Cavalry are going to go and get a second.
Yeah, exactly. They got straight back into it from the kickoff. Like they didn't give them a moment to get back in the game. Just went straight out and carried on just as they started.
That's the thing, is they didn't let them breathe at all. You would think, okay, we got it. Let's try to build up. No, they just kept going after scoring that goal. And 6 minutes later, we got the second goal. And it was like, as I said, Tobias Wachowski not giving up on a ball after dribbling
Mm.
and shooting and fighting, gets the ball on the edge, sees both Jay Herdman and Sergio Camargo on the left, puts a delightful little ball in. I was kind of hoping, I mean, I'm super happy for Sergio Camargo for him to get the winning goal as the day one. It's
Yeah.
poetic, it makes sense, it's perfect. But the little bias in me, the little Vancouver boy bias in me, wanted Jay Herdman to get that goal just because of the fact that he's from, the Whitecaps and everything. I just wanted him to, have that moment. But still, fantastic that Sergio Camargo got the goal, excellently slotted in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see how much it meant to him and to
Mm.
everybody involved. Somebody that's been there since the very beginning to score that goal against the old enemy and be
Yeah.
able to send Cavalry into ecstasy with when the full-time whistle popped up. It was perfect storytelling. And as soon as the halftime whistle went, because like we mentioned, Forge kind of got into it a little bit, but as soon as the halftime whistle went, I turned over to Charlie O'Connor Clark, who was there, and we both sort of like looked at each other and we're like, that's the best I think we've ever seen Cavalry play.
Yeah.
Just
They're outstanding. Yeah.
point blank. Just like
Mm.
definitely this season, but maybe ever. Just
Yeah.
because that was utter and complete domination of Forge. In the playoffs in the final, which is where they just tend to have their final form. They trampled them. They
Yeah.
stamped them out. And I was really kind of concerned a little bit. Could it be like, is this going to be a battering in the second half? Like,
Patrice guys are sat there going, see, it's not that easy going away from home, is
no,
it?
exactly. Like I thought, unless Forge wake the hell up, this is going to be a battering. And it's funny because some people beforehand were saying like, oh, this is going to be a battering for Forge. Like Cavalry, you're not going to see it coming. It's going to be a battering for
Mm.
Forge. And no, it was not.
Yeah.
Cavalry, yeah, we're just absolutely dominant. And I was kind of hoping, just from a neutral point of view, that Forge were going to get a goal back at some point, just to make it a little bit more kind of competitive and kind of set up a high stakes finish. Because I didn't want it to be a battering. I mean,
Okay.
great for Cavalry and everything, but I
Yeah.
didn't want it to
I
be
wanted
a
a battering. It would have been hilarious.
no, yeah, the catharsis from every single CPL fan that isn't a Forge fan
Yeah.
at a battering of Forge in the final from Cavalry would have
Yeah.
been immense for
Yeah.
them.
The
They would
Valor
all
back
just
back for
collectively
Cavalry next
had
year.
just that sigh of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen because in the second half, yeah, we did see Forge get back into it
Early
a
on
little
as
bit of
well.
a scrappy goal. Shinodi
Yeah.
Johnson getting in there. I think it was a little bit naive. I forget who it was. I think it was a forward. I don't remember if it was Toby. I think it might have been Ali Musi who drew the foul that led to the set piece, where after a little bit of fracas, Forge
Mm.
scored.
Yeah.
But it did feel like Cavalry, they had such a good first half that they wanted to get it into the second half, but they lacked a little bit of that discipline going into it. And I
Mm.
think because Forge wisened up in this second half, they kind of were expecting it and took advantage of it. A couple of cheap early fouls from Cavalry allowed Forge to get more set piece opportunities. And in the end, it was off of, I think it was the second or even third phase of that set piece
Yeah.
opportunity that Alex Ashinoni Johnson managed to bundle the ball into the back of the net to make it 2-1. And at that point, I was like, okay, now we got a game.
Yeah, I was the opposite. It's like, oh fuck, we've seen this before. After such a good half, I was like, oh no, like Cavalry are gonna fall to pieces. But yeah, luckily for them, they didn't. It's yeah, the Forge like obviously got back in the game, and it's so hard to keep up the speed and the intensity for 90 minutes of what they did in the first 45. So it was always going to be a little bit of a change, but yeah, like you've mentioned it already, like with like Klump and Montgomery at the back there, and like the two fullbacks, like as well, Ed and Camden, they're great games. I see Ed pops up in the other half a little bit more than Bradley Camden, but just all round they managed to deal with that where you could see on another day Forge get a little bit more confidence and Cavalry lose a little bit, but on this one they really did keep it. They're like, okay, well, we're not dominating anymore. Forge ended up with a lot more possession, but they protected themselves better throughout the rest of that second half, and they didn't let it affect them at all. Because after just the intensity and the highs of the first half, like you can imagine something like that could affect them. But I think one thing that's really important for Cavalry is, they've made a couple of minor adjustments, but they've got that spine of a team and they're experienced together as a group now. It's not like a load of young players who all of a sudden everything's changing. Like they've got experience and they've got quality in there. So a player that's just come in, like Jay Herdman, it's not that's not going to affect him because he's got these people around him who are just going to say, look, come on, it's fine, we've got a plan, we're set up. And you've got that across the defense, you've got Carducci at the back, and like it's such a well put together team.
Yeah, that's in the end what allowed them to hold on and win that match, is because of their experiences, because of the maturity, the leaders that they have. Their spine is so strong. Even their bench. That's what I was talking to some people as well about, the fact that like it just feels like Cavalry have the stronger bench. Obviously, Forge had Borges and Barra on the bench, which are two
Yeah.
fantastic players. But you look at Cavalry's bench, and it just feels more balanced, more complete. You have those players that you can bring in to kind of close out the game, like when they brought on Charlie Trafford, when they brought on Eric Kobza. Like these are players that you can rely on to kind of take the sting out of a game and really see it out. And it was just such a well experienced performance in the second half from Cavalry to ensure that Forge didn't equalize. Because I'll be honest, I kind of felt like as soon as it went 2-1, I'm like, this is going 2-2 in the penalties. Like
Yeah.
that's immediately my reaction. I'm like, Forge have a taste, now they're coming for everything.
Yeah.
But no, it was such a well professional performance from Cavalry from top to bottom. Obviously, the defense will get a lot of credit for that, but just from top from bottom, still, the way that they transitioned from this like super high press to this organized sort of mid to low block,
Yeah.
where they were very very structured. The wing backs and the wing backs and the wide midfielders sort of tucking in, defending well in that kind of 4-4-2, and just really making it hard for Forge to be able to break through and suffocating them midfield even. It was such a gritty performance from Cavalry, and there were moments of a little bit of concern, a couple of half chances here and there
Yeah.
from Forge players, but honestly, it never really felt like Forge were on the verge of equalizing. There were always like moments where they were getting close, but Cavalry, somebody from Cavalry was there to snuff it out and just
Mm.
end it before it sparked into a flame. And that goes to show just the complete performance from this side. And I love that it kind of ended up being in these kind of two different facets of the first one, this high intensity, fast, just relentless, aggressive press in the first half, and then this more measured,
Mm.
structured, organized, disciplined, patient, defensive display in the second. Really kind of showed holistically why Cavalry are the best side in the CPL on any given day. Like it's just what they're so good at, and how they've developed this season into becoming that. Because they weren't that way at the start. They were like what they had. I think what, one win, six draws, and two losses, something like that,
Yeah.
in the opening 9 or 10 match days.
The
But
credit to them this year. I mean, why I was saying Tommy Wilden Jr. maybe for manager. They only lost 4 games all season. Like Forge lost 8, then 2 more in the playoffs. Like they were set up all year, and they were built and built and built, and they were ready for this. Like they were really ready for the playoffs this year.
yeah, yeah, and I think that kind of flew under the radar a little bit. That yes, we know that Calvary don't blow teams away, but they're also extremely hard to beat.
Mm.
And that's the biggest thing is, the first goal, they always, this is such a cliche in soccer, but the first goal really matters. But it really mattered in this one
Yeah.
because you knew if Forge got it, then Forge were going to likely see out the game just by having that experience as champions, of that
Mm.
experience of finals. But if Cavalry got the first goal, then you knew that Forge were going to have to work double because they're such a hard team to beat.
Mm.
And that's why I felt like this game could have gone either way. And I'm so happy that it went the way that it did because it had everything. It had drama, it had controversy, it had two completely different styles of halves in terms of the kind of
Mm.
football that we saw. There was a lot of tension that built up in that second half. And when it finally burst, when the final whistle went and you saw the celebrations, you saw the flares pop off, you saw the players, some crumpled to the ground in emotions, some others just banded together and started jumping up and cheering as a group. It was fantastic to watch as an onlooker.
Mm.
In the last like 10-15 minutes, not only was it like actually quite cold on the night, that was something I did leave out. It was like 0 degrees, so like we had to be outside to watch it, which was great from some point of view. But another point of view, I was freezing my butt off. I had to go to the other side of the stadium where the sun was still kind of shining, so I could kind of, bask in
Yeah,
the
but
heat a little bit to,
yeah.
to kind of not be, shivering on the press side. But that also allowed me to be like with the crowd in the last like 10-15 minutes, and
Mm.
like the tension in there was incredible. Like I could see everyone was nervous, everyone was cheering, like it was just waiting to burst. And when it finally did, wow, what an
Mm.
amazing moment that was. And I didn't get to see everything. I watched it back, some of the highlights afterwards of like Tommy's celebration with his coaches,
Yeah.
Carducci going and running up and punching towards the soldiers, and being and hugging everybody, and just the whole kind of celebration. By the trophy lift, I went back into the press box because I was like, I'm too cold to stay out here. But seeing the trophy lift, seeing like Cavalry being able to celebrate with everyone, that not only like all of everyone that was there, but also like players that weren't there, players that had been with the team earlier on and kind of moved
Mm.
on to other roles in the club, like Nick Ledgerwood. Like just being able to see that whole celebration was really, really special.
Yeah, they're not stopping there, are they? Like Tommy's comments afterwards, the first of many, isn't it? For him.
Yeah, that's what he was sort of talking about, in the post match. Firstly, I wanted to give credit to Bobby because he kind of had an opening statement after the game where he thoroughly congratulated Cavalry and
Mm.
said that they deserved it, and he knows how much it means to the team and to the city and everything to finally get it here, and he was sort of very gracious
Yeah.
in defeat. And Forge was we talked to Tristan as well, who kind of was talking about how it just didn't kind of pan out the way they wanted, and they weren't able to recover.
Mm.
But let's be honest, everybody there was waiting to talk to Cavalry
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to Tommy, and yeah, Tommy didn't disappoint. He finally made the joke of like it's finally written, talking about the unwritten part comments he was making before. But
Yeah.
yeah, the biggest thing that he talked about was like to be the best, you got to beat the best. That's the
Mm.
mentality that they have, and he wants to end the dynasty. He doesn't want to stop there. He wants to end a
No.
dynasty, and to end a dynasty, you gotta go again. You can't let this just be a hiccup like Pacific was in
Yeah.
2021 that separated the four. No, you gotta go, and you gotta make sure that you win the next two or three, so that you stamp out Forge. And obviously, highly ambitious, but I think they're capable of doing that if they go again and make smart recruitments, and if certain players leave, be able to replace them properly and keep that mentality, keep that culture at the club. They can definitely push Forge all the way, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's these two again next year. I know I know a lot of people don't want that, and I know personally myself, I'd love to see other teams reach a final, and two new teams reach a final, and it be in a completely new venue. That would be amazing. But nevertheless, I still think that like I wouldn't be surprised if these two made it to the final, just because of how strong they are, just that mentality that they have. And Cavalry wanting to, Tommy mentioned they were going to celebrate tonight. They're never going to forget the night, but afterwards it starts again.
Mm.
Just that relentlessness of Tommy and the team and everything. It's exciting to see what they've done, and it's going to be exciting to see what they will do
Mm.
ahead of 2025.
Definitely, yeah. Like massive congratulations to the whole club. Great for the fans. Like it was so great to watch, even from over here. You really felt it through coming through the speakers.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what I've heard from other people as well, and just I'm so personally very very lucky to have been able
Mm.
to go there. As soon as I knew that I was going to Calgary. I did everything in my power to make sure that I could be there, and
Yeah.
you know the fact that I was able to go and meet all these people that usually we only see on TV screens or
Yeah.
behind screens of like writing. It was yeah, a fantastic experience, and yeah, one that I think neither of us are gonna forget, and hopefully
Mm.
it brings in more fans.
Yeah, I
uh
mean that's the thing for another pod going on. We'll have to look back at the comments on the league and the things going forward that Martin Linden's obviously went through beforehand. So yeah, there's some exciting stuff, some things with the crowd numbers and everything like that. So
yeah, for
maybe
sure.
something to dive into properly another time.
Yeah,
But
we'll save that for another time. We'll save that for another time. But now that we have thoroughly discussed the CPL final, let's talk about the little piece of news that we got immediately following the CPL final. And that was coming out of York United. Shock news. Benjamin Mora, who was nominated for Coach of the Year this year and did not win, spoilers, is now gone
all because
from
he didn't get
York
the
United.
award.
All because he didn't get an award. I'm sure that was the final nail in the
Done with
coffin.
this place.
Yeah. No, but I was, kind of, I woke up to the news and I was just sort of stunned
Mm.
by it, because it really looked like Mora and York United not only were working, but were like enjoying working together. It felt like, because of the new owners, the culture that he brought in, the impact that he's been able to have, the fact that he was able to finish the the season with so many records, so many
Mm.
new milestones. Like, this is far and away the best season that York United has had in their short history. For it to end so abruptly was shocking. And I think for most
Yeah.
people was shocking. But then even more when he spoke out about why he left. And so this comes from an interview with AS Mexico. This is courtesy of True North Foot, who was at least the first one that I saw reporting these comments out.
Mm.
Translated from Spanish, Benjamin Mora said, "The growth of the league and of this team is not in proportion to the growth that I would like for myself, for my expectations and ambitions." Wow.
Yeah.
That's not really what you want to hear from the most successful coach you've had to date,
Mm.
who's only been around for 6 months.
That's a tough one. I like when I read that, I was like, ouch, that was like a big dig. But then at the same time, I'm looking back at it and thinking like Benjamin Mora is coming from a very different career path to the other coaches in this league. It's obviously was Atlas before going off to Malaysia, if I'm remembering rightly. So he's already been at a big club in a big league, and whereas current coaches are setting themselves up for good, like for future opportunities in this league and the chances to go off to different places, Liga MX is probably not the next step for most people other than Benjamin Mora in this league. Like it's so I do get the impression that he got very comfortable, like the idea of going back to where he had been coaching in that league, which obviously has so much history. So maybe the way that he's looking ahead to how he should be doing things. You could, yeah, like if he stayed in the CPL, it is a developmental league. Like your next stop isn't a big league if you stay here for too long. Like as someone who'd already been in a big league. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. And like I try to see it from his point of
Mm.
view of that. And like, there was talks about the Chivas Guadalajara job being up for grabs
Yeah.
and him being somebody that they were looking towards. I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming days or weeks we see him announce, and if so, then it makes more sense. And
Mm.
like I understand the logic behind it. If you're Benjamin Mora, because you come from a deeper culture, a bigger league,
Yeah.
and everything, to be able to go back to that, to that level that you think you should be at. But it's just the way that he exited and the
Mm.
way that he said that, obviously things can be taken out of context. He probably did say a lot of nice things about the league and about the team. But that for that specific quote to be leaked, it kind of makes it seem like Benjamin Mora really just treated this league as a stepping stone.
Well, I think
And
I think he was trying to, but where York tailed off a little bit towards the end of the season, was struggling for goals. If I think he was thinking, well, if I do this and I do quite well in this season, then I'm still in the frame. People still know my name. They'll still see the fact that I've just turned up in this league and immediately turned things around. When things started to not go quite as well as they had in the first half of like his tenure at York, maybe he's looking there going, well, next season, if things don't get off to a good start, then I'm no longer applying for these jobs. I'm applying for something a lot further down to try and build myself up again because I'm struggling in this league that is a young, developing league. Like, so I guess from his perspective, maybe he's looking at that and thinking, yeah, like it is a gamble. If I do really well again, then that's fine, and it'll be fine for me to go for a job at Chivas again. But if I do badly, I'm out of that. And how do I get back into it?
no, yeah, and I do think his stock is at its highest right
Yeah.
now, given where what he did with York United. And like, it's fine if he did think of this as a stepping stone to something greater in his career. Like, that's completely fine, because this
Mm.
is a young and developing league. It's one thing to think about that, and then it's another thing to say it.
Yeah, I suppose.
And
Yeah.
to say it in the way that he did. Like like it's not like he was saying, "Oh, the CPL sucks." Like he was still, pretty respectful and well spoken about it. But it's the implications behind what he said, where he said it basically saying, "I'm too good for this league's ambitions." Because he didn't even say just York. He said the league itself, the
Did he?
whole thing.
Has he like? I just imagine him going on like announcing this over like Twitter or Instagram and just tagging in Media Pro, tagging the CPL. I'm going to start this again.
Yeah, just it would like he came for everybody. Like no one was safe from what
Remember
he
you
was saying.
guys were arguing at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it was just wow, and it kind of the thing that pissed me off a little bit too is that it undermined everything that the CPL the final sort of did to build up
Yeah,
what the CPL has grown, the comments
growing
from the
thing.
commissioner, the whole occasion. Like everyone was like rosy eyed about the CPL because of how wonderful it was. And
Mm.
then Benjamin Mora's comments came in, and then it kind of like extinguished that a little bit because it was like, oh yeah, people probably were taking like, oh yeah, the CPL is a small league, and it's like, no, look, we just came from that, like we just
Yeah,
built ourselves up away from that, and now we got
yeah.
dragged back down to defending the CPL as like we're not
Mm.
this minor league. No, it's a young, exciting, developing league. So that's the part that kind of annoyed me
Yeah,
from
timing
his
was
expect.
terrible.
The
Yeah,
timing was terrible of it, and of the comments, and like not his leaving. His leaving is fine. Like
yeah,
it's the comments that the timing
yeah.
of it is terrible because it, yeah, basically downplays how good of a league it is despite its young nature. And also at the same time, it kind of it's a direct shot at everybody, but really like it hurts York United a lot
Yeah.
because York United were, singing to high heaven about how great this coach is and how great the
Mm.
season was. And they were talking about the record breaking season that it was. I got a whole press release talking about all the different records and
Yeah.
milestones that they managed to break or achieve. And then literally weeks later, the manager says this about the league. It just
Mm.
is like a big middle finger
Yeah.
to York United and to its fans and to the league's fans. Like it leaves a bitter taste in the mouths of
Mm.
everyone sort of watching it. It kind of treats him or paints him as this sort of mercenary rather than, what we see in other teams, like an aspiring coach looking to grow the game. Like it just
Mm.
makes it feel like he literally cared nothing for
Yeah.
this league and moved on. And so, yeah, that's why for me, I was like, hey, ooh, I wasn't the biggest fan
No.
of the way he went and everything it meant. But, all the power to him. If he wants to go and if he gets Chivas jobs, then fantastic. Here's hoping, fingers crossed, at some point, maybe in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I don't know if Chivas qualified for 2025. If
I have
not,
no
then maybe
idea
in
actually, I know. Yeah.
in 2026 or 2027, if he's still there, they match up against a CPO side, and the CPO side wins, and they get their revenge. They get their lick back. That's the only thing I'm hoping. That's the little bit of the petty side.
Yeah.
But but yeah, just not the best way to bow out of the CPL.
Mm. No, definitely not. And I guess one thing for the comments on after this episode from people is who are York going to poach from another CPL team to take over?
Yeah. And that'll be something that we can cover when we do the York
Yeah.
episode post-mortem. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where they go from here because after such a great season, end to the season,
Mm.
they need to capitalize on the momentum both on and off the pitch. So they have to be very, very, very careful with who they pick for their next manager. But before we wrap up for this special episode, we are going to go over the CPL Awards because that happened before the final on the Thursday night. And once again, it was an event I was able to go and attend. And it was a lovely event. It actually felt like a proper awards ceremony. It's something that, like, I've never been to one before. So this is for me the standard now. But some people who had been to ones before said this is the most professional, high-end, fancy, formal that it's ever been, because it was like in a proper amphitheater. They had all the awards. They ushered everybody in. It was a very tight, like well scheduled, well structured program of exactly like an hour with scheduled um, advertisement breaks, and it was really really well like put on. Like Andy Petrillo did a great job hosting, KJ did a great job kind of interviewing all the winners, and then Jordan Wilson was hilarious talking with some of the players and the coaches and everything. He made Elijah Cookby spit a 16 bar kind of like freestyle almost. He gave him like 20-30 minutes to prep it about the league, about the night. It was just overall, it was like really, really well done, super professional. Really makes you think like this is a proper league award ceremony. And then for me, before and after, 3 or 4 different kind of, I guess you could call courses of catering of different kinds of food, ranging from like sandwiches and like charcuterie to like pasta bar, taco bar, to like late night sliders and wings. It was incredible. I was so full by the end of the night. And the best part, of course, open bar. Open bar. It made it very easy to network once everyone was a few drinks in. Yeah, it was very easy to make friends with the people at the event. But no, excellent event overall. Really, I commend the CPL and
just need to add a podcast category in there.
Yeah, it would have been amazing if they could have had Footy Prime there to kind of host a mini live podcast. I think that actually would have been great. I mean, we're open to that as well. If anybody's listening, we'd be happy to do that. But I think Footy Prime wanted to just drink and eat as much as they can, which is very fair because I did the same. I did the very same. But let's go over the actual awards and compare and contrast them with our predictions, because we had a little predictions in the last episode.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fair for everyone listening to see how well or how poorly we did. So again, we're going to start off player of the year. It was we both have different answers, and it kind of did feel like a toss up because of how well Tobias Wachowski did. But in the end, it did go to Tristan Borges, which was my pick for player of the year. I wasn't surprised. Obviously, I picked them. But at the same time, I was like, oh, okay, let's go. Because, there was a lot of options and a lot of worthy potential winners in the award, like Tobias, like Hajabapur. It was players that you think, okay, these are players that could do the business and could win it, and not people say, oh, I was robbed or anything like that. I think most of those players would have deserved it. Obviously, probably was going to be a Forge or Cavalry player. And I was so happy for Tristan to win it because of the story. Again, he won in 2019 as this young, fresh face, exciting Canadian prospect. And now 6 years later, as this more matured, well-rounded professional, he wins it again. I think it was a very special moment. And I have such a special place in my heart for Tristan Borges because I was able to see his growth when I was working at Forge. And to be able to see him lift it and win that trophy, it was very special. And it did mean a lot to me. But it wasn't the only award that was special in the night, because another player that I think a lot of people picked to win this award did win the award, and that was Young Player of the Year. Yeah, I think it was 99.9% in his favor. I know they won't announce the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's what it ended up being. And that was, of course, to Kwasi Poku, the former Forge FC, now RWD Molenbeek in Belgium Second Division striker. Bit of a mouthful, that one. And newly capped Canadian men's national team, Kwasi Poku. He wasn't obviously at the award ceremony because he was in Belgium working, but he did send a little video message to everyone, thanking the coaching staff, thanking his family, his friends, thanking God, thanking everyone that helped him get to that point. And he talked about how it was his goal to win this award after being, nominated a couple times beforehand for it. So very happy for him to have finally won it. Yeah, probably the least shocking award of the entire night.
Stolen from Gastav, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that one. Don't worry, Gazdov got his recognition in the
Exactly.
end. But somebody that finally, speaking of recognition, finally got their recognition after 6 straight years of being nominated was the Coach of the Year winner, Bobby Smirniotis, the Forge. Thank goodness, because that man, he's won everything, obviously, on a team level with Forge in the CPL, but he was snubbed for 5 straight years. Finally, they give him his flowers in his 6th year. And that's why I was correct in choosing him as my nominee. But I think had the awards been after the final, I don't think he would have won it, just because of how the final went. I think the little bit of the recency bias might have gone in your favor because you went for Tommy Wilden Jr.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it should have been Tommy. I think if they had actually given probably a Manager of the Year when he deserved it in some of the other years, and then probably because, like I say, they were terrible away from home for good chunks of the season. Lost twice as many games as Cavalry all year.
True.
I thought Tommy Wilden Jr. was fantastic this year. And yeah, like nothing taking away from Bobby at all. Who is one of, if not the best coach in this league ever since it's been going. Like, so yeah, it's just so crazy that he hasn't won it already. So it had to be him, really, like just because it's kind of owed.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a formality at that point. It was like, okay, fine, you can have it, fine. But then we also saw the Golden Glove being awarded, and we did have 2 different answers for this one. Oh no, we had the same answer.
We both went Callum, didn't we?
Because we both went for Callum Irving, and I actually got the chance to talk with Callum Irving beforehand at the events. Such a great guy.
Definitely there just in case someone dropped a trophy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there just to save, just to make a save. No, I'm pretty sure he was there for the free food and the drinks. But yeah, a great guy, Callum Irving. He's such a fun guy to talk to. He's very amicable, very warm. Like, I love chatting to him. And he was sort of there thinking like, it kind of came off as like, I feel like I could win, but at the same time, I'm not. It could be somebody else. So I was really hoping for his sake, because he came all the way out here for the awards, that he would win it. In the end, we were both wrong in this one, because it did go to who you thought was going to be the Young Player of the Year, which was Emil Gazdov. I think, on the face of it, probably a good choice. The stats back him, as I was, debating with some other people, including AGR, because AGR is a big Gazdov fan, that the stats back him. So fair enough. But, I feel like, especially given his story, he came into Pacific last year, had a rough start, got knocked out of the starting 11 for a little bit, came back in, finished pretty strong, had a super strong start of the year, had that one moment of madness where he got that red card and kept them out for a little while. But aside from that, like, he had a fantastic year, and it was nice that he was able to give credit to Callum Irving, because he was his mentor, obviously, when Callum Irving was still at Pacific and everything. And it was nice to see that, if Callum didn't win it, it was somebody that he helped get to this point, that won it, that kind of, the Padawan surpassing the master kind of thing. So it was at least a nice moment for Callum in that one. I was only a little bit disappointed that he didn't win it, but yeah, congratulations to Gazdov, and it was nice to see such a good young player like him win that award of one of the top the top goalie in the league.
Mm.
And then we moved on to the top defender of the league, the Defender of the Year award. We both went for the same one here. I did make you change sort of last minute to convince you last minute beforehand to change your answer to
Yeah.
this one to kind of I fed into your bias a little
Yeah.
bit of voting Temi Antonoglu. And actually I talked to some people afterwards and quite a few people actually voted for Temi Antonoglu because of how impactful he was
Yeah.
for Valor and how much
Brilliant.
he meant to him. But in the end, we were, I think, probably severely outvoted because it did go
Mm.
to last year's recipient, Dan Klomp of Calvary,
Who was
back to
amazing
back
again. Yeah.
defenders of the years, and he was amazing throughout the season.
Mm. Yeah, quality, absolute quality player. Hope to see him again next year.
That's the biggest question, I think, is does he stay around after having won 2 back-to-back defenders of the years? I think a couple
Yeah.
of people were surprised that he stayed this season. I think I'll be even
Yeah.
more surprised if he sticks around next season. But at the very least, if he does leave, we got to see one of the best to have done it in the league in the last 6 years. And yeah, that's why very deserved winner, defender of the year. I was not disappointed whatsoever.
No,
I
no,
knew
not
I
at all.
knew Temi was just kind of like a hopeful pick. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
exactly.
to give him his flowers because he was so good for Valor. And
Yeah.
yeah, another player that I don't know if we'll see in the CPL. And so I wanted to kind of send him off with my vote of confidence of like, I back you, I know your quality, and
Yeah.
hopefully you continue to be quality wherever your career takes you, kind of thing. And then we ended off with the Players' Player of the Year.
This was weird.
This one was a bit of a weird one. I agree. This one, I already explained all my logic behind why I thought players were going to pick the Players of the Year. You explained your logic for why you thought that the players were going to pick this. Very different logics,
Yeah.
very, very different rationalities.
So it was two routes to the one destination.
But exactly, we both got to the same place, so it didn't really matter in the end. But we both ended up being wrong on this one with the Players' Player of the Year because it was not Alessandro Hojabrpour, who, fun fact, was like as I was lining up to fly back to Vancouver yesterday, as I was in the queue to go get on board, I look behind me and Alessandro Hojabrpour is right there, like
No.
3 steps behind me, like at a Starbucks getting coffee. And I was like, what? And then I look behind him and like out of the corner of my eye, I can see all the Forge players just chilling. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
we're flying back around the same time. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Hojabrpour did not win this award as we thought, and instead went to the only York United player on the list,
Yeah.
Brian Wright, as the Players' Player of the Year, which I'm not saying he's not deserved. I think he had his most prolific season in his career. I think his best season for York United, no doubt. But I kind of thought there were some players that other players would have rated a little bit more than him.
Yeah, this screams a lot of, well, I'm not voting for someone at Forge. I'm not voting for someone at Calgary. And Brian Wright's probably, he's played well. He's probably a really nice guy. York don't bother me. Go with him.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what the rationale was.
Yeah.
From the players that they were just like, as long as it's not a Forge or Cavalry player, let's celebrate somebody else. And so
Yeah, it can't be
it wasn't.
Ottawa either.
Yeah, it wasn't Calgary, so let's go with Brian Wright.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If that was what happened, fair enough.
Fair enough. Maybe he had a good year. He had good moments. It wasn't prolific throughout, but yeah, had some really good moments.
Yeah, had a really good purple patch towards the middle in the middle of the season for York and well, even at the beginning as well. So yeah, I'm not downplaying it, but yeah, a little bit of a shock one there in the end. And then the only one that we didn't predict because we didn't know was going to be there on the awards night was the CPL MVP of the final, the CPL final MVP, which we only had about like a 10-minute window to vote for at the end of the game. But that one went to Tobias Wachowski, which I feel like
it was really good,
more than well deserved because of everything that he
definitely.
did in the CPL final. I will like who else could have been like? To be fair, Cavalry had a lot of players that it could have been, but no one was as good and as on it as Wachowski was, especially in the first half. But yeah, so those were the awards. If we look at it, Mike, you've done me the courtesy of highlighting the correct ones. I got 3 out of 6, so not bad.
No,
50%.
Let me just count mine up again.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Oh, you got 0.
Yeah.
Just missed.
Always next year.
Yeah, just missed. I can see why you're a Valor fan. Yeah, no, not your best predictions. I mean, I don't think you were wrong on a lot of them. I think definitely a lot of the ones that you chose could have been a couple others that were definitely pretty hopeful.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like you said, there's always next year. There's always next year. And what a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, the last episode of the 2024 CPL season. Thank you so much for following us. If you listen to one episode or all of the episodes that we've been able to take out for this season, we appreciate you so much. To everyone that likes to listen and to shout out and everything and comment when we advertise. You are the ones that make this all worth it for us. We love the CPL and we love chatting about it, and it's great that a lot of people love to hear us waffle on for hours on end on it, week in and week out. And don't worry, just because the CPL season is over, that does not mean that Coast to Coast FC's season is over. Coast to Coast FC's season is never over, because as we saw with the Benjamin Mora, it's never never a quiet day, never a quiet moment with the CPL. So we will be back. We'll be giving you a bunch of episodes. We'll do team-based postmortems talking about each team's season, the next steps, how they move on to 2025. We might have a couple more interviews now that we have some more time and the players have a little bit of downtime. Maybe later towards the 2025, we'll have some previews and I'm sure smattering of other special episodes in between them. But plenty of content still coming out from us. So don't you fret. Make sure that you will have that little notification on to know when we upload. But that's it. As always, make sure to follow us once again on all of our socials so you can let us know what you thought on the final was, on the awards, and on the season as a whole. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to be able to grow this more and more as the years go on, including going alongside the growth of the CPL. Remember that we're also looking still for contributors in any kind of shape and form for the 2025 zine, the 2025 edition of Rewind the Tape. We've had a couple of people reach out, but we would love to have even more reach out to help us on that big project. That's going to be probably the main thing that we're going to be focusing on closing out 2024. So if you want to help out, feel free to message us. We're always happy to bring more people on. But that is it for us. That is it for the 2024 season of the CPL. But until next time, I'm Felipe Vallejo.
And I'm Mike Rice.
And this has been Coast to Coast FC, signing out.